Good morning. Welcome to the February 15th edition of Nasdaq Advisory Live. We're powered by Nasdaq IR Insight, and I'm your host, Will Briganti, coming to you live from the Nasdaq market site overlooking New York City's Times Square. Joining me today as my guest is Adam Lazarus. Adam is a senior analyst with Nasdaq Advisory Services covering the transportation industry. Adam, welcome.
Great to be here, new location.
That's right, great to have you back on. So today I want to talk specifically about the airline sector within transportation. How have the airlines performed so far?
Well, not the best.
Okay.
So year to date, we're seeing some of the airlines, on average, the U.S. airlines are down roughly 6% for the year, and some are down even more, 12%. Now, they've been going lower since Q4 earnings, which for the airlines are mainly in late January.
Right.
And when the earnings came out, they sort of had a surprise when one of them, United Airlines, said that they're expecting to grow capacity over the next 3 years up to 6%, which was a huge disruption for the sector, because whenever you add capacity, that means that, for example, if you're adding a flight from New York to London, 4 other airlines are already flying to London. Now, for them to introduce it, to get people on the fare, they're going to lower their prices.
Right, of course.
Which has an effect where the other airlines that are currently flying it may have to lower theirs, setting up a price war, which eats up in the revenue, and that's why it hurts the whole sector, which we saw the dive.
Got it. Good breakdown. Now, you did mention the dive. You mentioned also that the airlines typically report earnings towards the end of January, and in early February, we had those volatile market sessions. So specifically on that recent market volatility, how have the airlines performed?
Okay. Well, not good, but they did outperform the broader markets.
Yeah.
Just because, well, a lot of them had already fallen, and what helped in lowering, sort of, helping them, the best is, so oil basically went down. Oil had been trading at 70, it's now above 60. Since that's a huge expense for the airlines, that was able to alleviate some of the selling pressure that we saw for the sector.
Now, in addition to, obviously, some of these headwinds, right, in terms of oil price, fare price, there's also, there's also a lot of industry consolidation that the airlines have seen over the last decade or so. Do you think the airlines are primed for some further consolidation at some point this year?
It's unlikely.
Right.
The last consolidation in at least the airline industry was when Alaska Airlines bought Virgin America.
That's right, yeah.
Back in 2016.
Okay.
So right now, the airline in the U.S., the sector acts as an oligopoly, as the 4 largest airlines now basically have over 80% of U.S. passenger traffic.
Right.
So it's a little early to tell if there'll be additional consolidation. The most likely part of at least merger and acquisition for that sector is they may take a stake in an overseas airline.
Okay. My final question for you, Adam, today on the airlines is, are there any sort of pertinent headwinds or tailwinds, no pun intended,
of course,
that this sector could be seeing?
Sure. Well, we always have the headwind of rising oil prices.
Right, of course.
Because
keeping an eye on that really closely, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And airlines are not hedging as much as they used to. So if oil is to shoot up, they can't just raise the price of fares overnight. They have to do it over months.
Right.
And tailwinds, at least for the sector, the U.S. tax reform is definitely a tailwind, because now much of the U.S. airlines, they're heavily taxed because of all their operations are domiciled in the U.S. So now they're at a lower tax rate. And U.S. GDP, which the airlines are watching, we could see, at least the Atlanta Fed is predicting for Q1, it could be north of 5%. So if GDP is higher, you'll see more people, more business people actually getting on planes, which will, of course, help.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for breaking down the airlines for us today.
Thank you for letting me to be here.
Absolutely. Good to have you back. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Adam Lazarus, a senior analyst with Nasdaq Advisory Services covering transportation. Thank you so much for joining us here on Advisory Live. Again, we're powered by Nasdaq IR Insight, and for more information on all of our investor relations solutions, be sure to visit our website at business.nasdaq.com. We'll see you back here next week. Thanks very much.